The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a hiss that echoed through the vast hall. Ambassador Helen Price walked forward with steady steps, her blue uniform crisp and clean despite the long journey from Earth. Behind her came Commander Jake Bennett and Lieutenant Paul Carter, both standing tall in their dress uniforms. The three humans moved toward the center platform where accused parties were required to stand during council proceedings. Helen looked around the enormous chamber. Hundreds of alien species sat in curved rows that rose up like a massive amphitheater. Some had scales, others had fur, and some looked like they were made of living crystal or metal. She had spent 3 years working with these beings, building trust, saving lives, and protecting their worlds. Now they looked at her with suspicion and anger. The High Magistrate Vexthal stood at the highest point in the chamber. He was a massive insectoid creature, nearly 12 feet tall with a hard exoskeleton that gleamed under the lights. His multiple eyes focused on Helen as he raised one clawed hand for silence. The chamber fell quiet immediately. Ambassador Price of Earth. Vexthal's voice boomed through translation devices that made his clicking sounds into words everyone could understand. You and your species stand accused of serious crimes against the Galactic Council and its member civilizations. Helen kept her face calm, though her heart pounded in her chest. She had expected this meeting to be difficult, but the formal accusations still hit like a punch to the stomach. We are here to answer any questions the council may have, she said clearly. A crystalline being rose from the second tier. This was Sholmar, representative of the Vrelny Collective. His body reflected light in rainbow patterns as he spoke. The Zarathian Imperium has brought evidence that humanity is secretly developing weapons that violate council law. They claim you have hidden research stations throughout the frontier zones. Jake Bennett shifted slightly behind Helen. He had commanded security for those research stations. They were medical facilities, nothing more. He had watched human doctors work day and night to develop a cure for the plague that was killing millions of Kelthani people. There were no weapons. There was no conspiracy. Another delegate stood up, this one a reptilian creature with purple scales. Furthermore, humanity has been accused of manipulating trade agreements to benefit Earth while harming other worlds. You have grown wealthy while your partner worlds have struggled. Helen felt anger rising in her chest but pushed it down. Getting emotional would not help. These accusations are false, she said firmly. Every research station we operate has been inspected and approved by council observers. Every trade agreement we have signed was negotiated fairly with full transparency. Transparency? Sholmar's voice carried disbelief. Your military grows stronger each year. Your technology advances faster than any species in council history, yet you share nothing with your allies. You hoard your knowledge while claiming to be partners. Paul Carter wanted to shout at them. He wanted to tell them how humans had died protecting council worlds, how the research they were calling suspicious had saved entire planets from disease, how human ships had fought pirates and raiders while council species stayed safe behind their borders. But he was a soldier, and soldiers followed orders. He stayed silent. A delegate from the Thanari species stood up. She was small and covered in soft fur, her large eyes showing what looked like sadness. I do not wish to believe these accusations, she said softly. But the evidence presented by the Zarathians is troubling. They have shown us communication records, financial data, and surveillance images. All of which can be faked, Helen said. Give us time to examine this evidence. Allow us to bring our own experts to verify its authenticity. We deserve that much after 3 years of loyal service to this council. Vexthal clicked his mandibles together, in what might have been consideration. But before he could speak, a new figure entered the chamber. The Zarathian ambassador was a tall, thin being with silver skin and eyes that seemed to glow red. He moved with the confidence of someone who knew he had already won. The council has examined the evidence thoroughly, the Zarathian said smoothly. We have consulted with experts from 17 different species. All agree that the evidence is genuine. Humanity has been deceiving you all. Helen turned to face him. That is a lie, and you know it. Your people have wanted humanity removed from council space since the day we arrived. You fear our success because it exposes your own failures. The Zarathian smiled, showing teeth that were too sharp. The humans now resort to insults. How predictable. Perhaps this shows their true nature. The chamber erupted in noise. Delegates argued with each other in dozens of languages. Some defended humanity, while others demanded immediate expulsion. Helen looked up at Vexthal, hoping to see some sign of support. But the High Magistrate's expression was unreadable. Finally, Vexthal raised both arms and the chamber fell silent again. The council will vote, he announced. All those in favor of expelling humanity from council space and removing all human presence from our territories, indicate now. The voting display lit up on the massive screens around the chamber. Helen watched as the numbers climbed. 1 vote against humanity, then 5. Then 10, 20. The count kept rising, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. When the count stopped, the result was devastating. 23 civilizations had voted to expel humanity. 4 had abstained. Not a single species had voted in their favor. Jake Bennett felt like the floor had disappeared beneath his feet. 3 years of sacrifice, of fighting, of dying to protect these people, and not one of them had stood up for humanity when it mattered. Helen Price took a deep breath and straightened her shoulders. She would not give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. Very well, she said, her voice steady and cold.
Humanity accepts the Council's decision.
We will remove all our personnel, all our equipment, and all our forces from Council space. We will close every embassy, every medical station, every research facility, and every defensive installation. You have 30 days, Vexthal said. Helen looked up at him, and for the first time she let her anger show in her eyes. We do not need 30 days. Humanity will be gone within 1 week. We will take everything we brought and leave you exactly as we found you. She turned and walked toward the exit. Jake and Paul fell in behind her. The 3 humans left the chamber in complete silence. Behind them, the alien delegates began to talk excitedly among themselves. Many were already celebrating their victory. None of them realized they had just made the biggest mistake in their civilization's 10,000-year history. None of them understood what was about to happen. They had just dismissed the only species that had been holding their entire society together. They would learn the truth soon enough. And when they did, they would beg humanity to return. But by then it would be too late for apologies. Captain Nicole Hayes stood on the bridge of the Liberty, the largest ship in the Earth Defense Fleet. Around her, officers worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. The massive viewscreen showed dozens of human vessels gathering in formation above the Council's primary space station. In total, 247 ships were preparing to leave Council space forever. All vessels report ready for departure, Captain, said Lieutenant Ryan Foster from the tactical station. His voice was professional, but Nicole could hear the anger underneath. They all felt it. 3 years of their lives given to protecting people who had just stabbed them in the back. Nicole nodded slowly. Begin shutdown procedures for all defensive platforms. Transfer command codes to Council security forces. Ryan's hands moved across his console, entering commands that would hand over systems humanity had built and maintained. Each defensive platform had cost millions of credits and months of work. They had protected Council worlds from countless threats. Now they were being given away to people who had shown no gratitude. Defensive grid Alpha is offline, Ryan reported. Beta grid offline. Gamma grid transferring now. On the view screen, Nicole watched as the defensive satellites that surrounded the station went dark one by one. Each satellite had sensors that could detect threats from millions of miles away. Each had weapons that could destroy incoming missiles or hostile ships. Without them, the station was blind and vulnerable. Captain, we are receiving a transmission from the station commander, said the communications officer. He is asking us to reconsider. Nicole felt a bitter smile cross her face. Tell him the Council has made its decision. We are simply following orders. Down on the planet below, Dr. Lisa Grant supervised the evacuation of Mercy General Hospital. It was the largest human medical facility in Council space, with over 300 beds and equipment that was decades more advanced than anything the Council species possessed. Now all of that equipment was being packed into cargo containers. Dr. Grant, please, you cannot leave, said a Thanari nurse. Her fur was matted with tears. We still have 60 patients in critical condition. The Council doctors do not understand their conditions. Lisa wanted to stay. Every cell in her body screamed at her to stay and help these people. But she had her orders. I have transferred all patient files to the Council medical team. They have all our notes and treatment plans. But they do not have your skill, the nurse said desperately. They do not have your equipment. These people will die. Then perhaps the Council should have thought about that before they expelled us, Lisa said coldly. She hated the words even as she spoke them. But what choice did she have? Humanity had been accused of crimes they did not commit. They had been thrown out like garbage. She could not stay where she was not wanted. A mother approached carrying a small child. Lisa recognized them. The child had a rare genetic disorder that would have been fatal without the treatment Lisa had developed. "Please, doctor," the mother begged. "My daughter needs her medicine. Without it, she will not survive the month." Lisa felt her heart breaking. She knelt down and looked at the child's face. So innocent, so trusting. "I have given the council doctors the formula for the medicine. They can make it." "They say it will take them months to set up production," the mother said, tears streaming down her face. "She does not have months." Lisa closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were hard. "I am sorry. I truly am. But this is not my choice. Your leaders made this decision when they voted against us." She stood and walked away, ignoring the mother's cries behind her. Each step felt like walking through broken glass, but she kept moving. Her staff followed her, all of them carrying the same guilt and anger. In orbit, Commander Greg Palmer oversaw the shutdown of the Sentinel network. This was a system of satellites that monitored all of Council space for threats. Pirates, asteroids, hostile fleets, anything dangerous was detected and tracked by these satellites. The system had prevented hundreds of disasters over the past 3 years. "Last satellite in Sector 7 is going offline now," reported his assistant, a young officer named Kate. "That completes the shutdown of the entire eastern quadrant." Greg watched the display as vast sections of space went dark on the threat board. "How long before Council forces can restore coverage?" Kate checked her instruments. "Their current sensor technology has a 17-minute delay compared to our Sentinel system. Even after they restart our satellites, they will not have the processing power to interpret the data effectively. Best estimate is they will be operating at 30% efficiency." 30%, Greg repeated. "That means 70% of threats will go undetected until it is too late." "Yes, sir." Greg felt sick. He was a soldier, trained to protect people. Now he was removing the very systems that kept billions of civilians safe. But orders were orders. Continue the shutdown. All satellites offline within the hour. Back on the Liberty, Nicole received reports from commanders throughout the fleet. Medical stations were being evacuated. Trade posts were being closed. Research facilities were being dismantled. Every installation that had a human presence was going dark. "Captain, we have a situation at Research Station Delta," Ryan said. "The local council government is refusing to let our people leave. They are saying the station belongs to them now." Nicole's eyes narrowed. "Inform them that the station is Earth property built with Earth resources. If they do not release our personnel immediately, I will consider it an act of hostage-taking." "They are not backing down, Captain." "Then send a message to the rest of the fleet. All ships are to prepare for combat operations. If Council forces want to start a war, we will finish it." Within minutes, 50 human warships changed course toward Research Station Delta, their weapons powered up and their shields activated. The Council ships guarding the station suddenly found themselves outnumbered and outgunned. The standoff lasted 10 minutes. Then the Council forces backed down and released the human personnel. Nicole ordered the research station destroyed rather than let the Council have it. The facility that had cost billions to build and had produced cures for a dozen diseases was reduced to debris in seconds. "Let that be a lesson," Nicole said quietly. "If they want to treat us like enemies, we will show them what real enemies look like." Across Council space, similar scenes played out. Humans were packing up and leaving, taking with them everything that had made the Council's expansion possible. The medical knowledge that had saved millions, the defensive systems that had kept them safe, the technology that had advanced their civilization by decades. Ambassador Helen Price watched from Earth as reports came in. Every human installation was being shut down or destroyed. Every piece of equipment was being taken or rendered useless. When humanity left, they would leave nothing behind. "We are receiving thousands of messages from Council civilians," said Lieutenant Amy Brooks, Helen's assistant. "They are begging us to stay. They are saying their governments made a mistake." Helen's face was like stone. "Too late. Their governments have made their choice. Now everyone lives with the consequences. Some of these messages are from children, ma'am, from hospitals and schools." "I said too late, Lieutenant." Amy fell silent. She understood. This was not about cruelty. This was about respect. Humanity had given everything to the Council, and the Council had thrown it back in their faces. There had to be consequences, or this would happen again. On the 7th day after the vote, the last human ship left Council space. Captain Nicole Hayes watched as the Liberty crossed the border into neutral territory. Behind her, Council space was darker and more vulnerable than it had been in 3 years. "Set course for Earth," she ordered. "Maximum speed." The fleet jumped to faster-than-light travel and disappeared. Council space was left in silence, a silence that would soon be filled with screaming. The first attack happened on the 6th day after humanity departed. A merchant convoy of Krathian cargo ships was moving through the outer veil, carrying food and medicine to colony worlds. They had made this journey dozens of times before, always protected by human patrol ships. But the human ships were gone now. The pirates came out of nowhere. 18 raider vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel and opened fire before the convoy could react. The merchant ships had no weapons and weak shields. They tried to run, but the raiders were faster. Within 20 minutes, 16 cargo ships were destroyed. 3,000 Krathian civilians died in the cold vacuum of space. The distress signal reached the Council's central command center 2 hours after the attack began. By then, it was far too late to help anyone. High Magistrate Vexthal stood in the command center, staring at the tactical display. Red markers showed where the attack had happened. "Where were our patrol ships?" he demanded. The military coordinator, a 4-armed creature named Vel, looked uncomfortable. "The nearest Council patrol was 4 hours away. Without the human fleet, we do not have enough ships to cover all the trade routes." 4 hours, Vexthal repeated. "The humans would have responded in minutes." "The humans also had the Sentinel network," Vel said quietly. "It would have detected the raiders before they attacked and warned the convoy. Our sensor systems did not see them until it was too late." Vexthal felt something cold settle in his chest. This was just one convoy. There were thousands of ships moving through Council space every day. "How many routes are currently unprotected?" Vel hesitated. "Approximately 60% of our trade routes have no patrol coverage. We are trying to redeploy our forces, but we do not have enough ships." Before Vexthal could respond, another alarm sounded. More red markers appeared on the display. Another attack. This time in the southern sectors. Then another alarm. Western sectors. The attacks were happening everywhere at once. "The raiders know we are vulnerable," Vel said. "They are taking advantage while they can." In the Council chamber, an emergency session was called. Delegates who had cheered humanity's expulsion now looked worried and afraid. Sholomar, the crystalline Vrelny who had been so vocal against humans, stood to speak. "We need to redeploy our military forces," he said. His voice did not have the same confidence it had possessed a week ago. "Pull ships back from the frontier and concentrate them around our most important trade routes." A Pelthian delegate stood up, his scales flushing purple with anger. "And what about the frontier colonies? You want to abandon them? There are billions of people living on those worlds." "We do not have enough ships to protect everything," Sholomar said. "We must prioritize." "The humans protected everything," someone shouted from the back. "They had enough ships." The chamber fell silent. It was the truth everyone had been avoiding. Humanity had maintained order across all of Council space with their fleet. Now that fleet was gone and the cracks were showing immediately. "We should contact Earth," said the Thenari delegate softly. "Ask them to return. Apologize for our mistake." Vexthal shook his head. "They will not come." "Why would they? We accused them of crimes they did not commit. We expelled them in front of the entire galaxy. They owe us nothing." While the Council debated, the medical crisis was growing worse. The plague that human doctors had been fighting had been contained to 2 star systems. But without the human medical teams and their advanced treatments, it was spreading again. Within 10 days of humanity's departure, 5 new systems reported infections. Council doctors tried desperately to replicate the human treatment protocols. They had the formulas and the notes, but they did not have the knowledge or experience to make it work. The medicine required precise genetic understanding that took years to develop. The humans had made it look easy, but it was not. Dr. Chen Wei was a Kelthani physician who had worked alongside Dr. Lisa Grant. He remembered everything Lisa had taught him, but knowing and doing were different things. He stood in his medical lab staring at a batch of medicine he had just created. The formula was exact, matching what Lisa had given him perfectly. But when he tested it, the medicine did not work. "I do not understand," he said to his assistant. "The formula is correct. I followed every step exactly. His assistant, a younger doctor named Kell, checked the readings. The molecular structure is wrong. Something about the synthesis process is different from how the humans did it. But they gave us the complete procedure. Maybe there were steps they did automatically, things they knew without thinking because they had done it so many times, small details they did not realize were important. Chen Wei felt despair wash over him. People were dying by the thousands every day. He had the cure right in front of him, but he could not make it work. Try sending another message to Dr. Grant. Beg her for more information. The message was sent. Like hundreds of others sent to Earth, it received no response. On Earth, Ambassador Helen Price sat in her office reviewing reports from Council Space. Trade networks were collapsing. Pirate attacks had increased by 400%. The plague was killing millions. Infrastructure was failing everywhere. Lieutenant Amy Brooks entered carrying more message requests. Ma'am, we have received 347 new requests for assistance in the past hour alone. Medical help, military support, technical advice. They are desperate. Helen did not look up from her screen. What is our response? We are not responding, ma'am. As per your orders. Good. Make sure it stays that way. Amy hesitated. Ma'am, with respect, people are dying. Children are dying. We have the ability to help them. Helen finally looked up. Her eyes were hard. Lieutenant, do you remember what happened in the council chamber? Do you remember how many species voted to defend us? Not one. Not a single civilization stood up for humanity when we were falsely accused. They threw us out like we were nothing. I remember, ma'am. Then you understand why we cannot rush back the moment they need us. If we do that, we teach them that they can treat us however they want and we will always come running. We become servants, not partners. We become tools to be used and discarded. Amy was silent for a moment. So we do nothing? We wait. We let them learn what the galaxy is like without humanity holding everything together. And if they want us back, they will have to come begging. They will have to offer real changes, real respect, real partnership. Until then, they are on their own. It was harsh. Helen knew it was harsh. But she had spent 3 years watching humans die to protect the Council. She had attended funerals for soldiers who died defending worlds that were not their own. She had seen doctors work until they collapsed trying to save alien lives, and the Council had repaid that sacrifice with suspicion and expulsion. No, humanity would not be fooled again. They would not give their lives for people who did not appreciate it. The Council wanted to be independent? Fine, let them be independent. Back in Council space, the situation continued to deteriorate. The quarry and mining colonies were running out of food because the trade convoys could not get through safely. The Pelthian homeworld was suffering power shortages because the energy distribution network the humans had designed was failing without proper maintenance. The Vrelny crystal gardens were dying because the climate control systems needed repairs that only human technicians knew how to perform. Everywhere, things were breaking. Systems were failing. People were suffering. And it had only been 2 weeks. Vexthal called another emergency session. This time there was no debate. Everyone knew the truth. We were wrong, he said simply. We made a terrible mistake. Without humanity, we are falling apart, Shulmar stood up. The proud crystalline being looked diminished now, his light dim. I was wrong most of all. I spoke against the humans. I questioned their motives. I helped convince this council to expel them. And I was wrong about everything. Other delegates began to speak, each one admitting their mistake. But words could not fix the crisis they faced. The pirate attacks continued. The plague spread. The infrastructure crumbled. We need to send a delegation to Earth, Vexthal said. We need to apologize and beg them to return. Will they come? Someone asked. Nobody had an answer. Humanity had left in silence. They had not responded to a single message. For all the Council knew, Earth had closed its borders forever. But they had to try, because without humanity, the Galactic Council was dying. 3 weeks after humanity's departure, everything fell apart completely. The Zerathian Imperium, the same civilization that had accused humans of secret weapons development, launched a massive military invasion. Their target was the Rimward sectors, a region of space containing 12 inhabited star systems and over 40 billion civilians. The attack came without warning. Zerathian warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation and began bombarding planetary defense stations. Within hours, 3 star systems were under Zerathian control. The Council's defensive forces were caught completely unprepared. High Magistrate Vexthal stood in the command center watching the tactical display fill with enemy contacts. Get our fleets into position. We need to stop them before they reach the core worlds. Vel, the military coordinator, worked frantically at his station. I am trying, Magistrate, but our forces are scattered. We have ships spread across 50 sectors trying to protect trade routes. It will take days to gather enough vessels for a proper defense. We do not have days. They are moving too fast. The humans would have had a response fleet ready, Vel said quietly. They maintained rapid response groups specifically for situations like this. Vexthal wanted to scream. Everything came back to the humans. Every problem they faced now was something humanity had prevented or prepared for. How long to assemble a fleet? 48 hours minimum. By then they will have taken 6 more systems. Do it anyway, and send every ship we can spare. The battle for the rimward sectors was a disaster. Council forces were brave but disorganized. They had relied on human tactical coordination for so long that their own command structure had become weak. Ships arrived in groups of 5 or 10 instead of as a unified fleet. The Zarathians destroyed them easily. Captain Kor, a Pelthian officer commanding a council cruiser, watched as his fleet was torn apart. 20 ships had come to defend the colony world of Haven Prime. The Zarathians had brought 80. It was not even a fair fight. All ships fall back, Kor ordered. We cannot win this. Retreat and regroup. But retreating was easier said than done. The Zarathian ships were faster and their weapons had longer range. Of the 20 ships that had come to defend Haven Prime, only 6 escaped. 14 were destroyed along with everyone aboard. Haven Prime fell 2 hours later. 40 million civilians found themselves living under Zarathian occupation. In the council chamber, panic had set in. Delegates shouted at each other, blame flying in every direction. The Thanari delegate was weeping openly. Several others had already fled to their homeworlds. We need to surrender, one delegate said. Negotiate terms before more people die. Surrender? Another delegate stood up angrily. The Zarathians will enslave us all. We must fight. With what? Shulmar's voice cut through the chaos. The crystalline being looked defeated. Our military is broken. Our defenses are scattered. The humans built a system that protected us all, and we destroyed it. Now we are paying the price. Then we contact Earth, Vexthal said firmly. We beg them to return. We offer them anything they want. They will not come, someone said. They hate us now. Then we make them an offer they cannot refuse. Full council membership, equal voting rights, control over all military operations, whatever it takes. While the council debated, the medical situation reached catastrophic levels. The plague that had been mostly contained was now raging across 9 star systems. Entire planets were under quarantine. The death toll had reached 18 million and was climbing daily. Dr. Nathan Pierce sat in his office at the Earth Medical Authority headquarters in Geneva. He was reading reports from council space, and each one made him feel worse. The plague victims were dying in ways that could be easily prevented. The cure existed. He had helped develop it. But the council doctors could not replicate it properly. His colleague, Dr. Karen Mills, entered the office. Her eyes were red from crying. Nathan, I cannot do this anymore. I cannot sit here and watch people die when we could save them. Nathan looked up at her tiredly. What do you want me to do, Karen? Disobey direct orders from the government? Go running back to save people who accused us of war crimes? They were lied to by the Zarathians. The civilians did not vote to expel us. They are innocent. And what about our people who died during those 3 years? The doctors who caught the plague while treating patients? The soldiers who died protecting council worlds? Were they not innocent too? Nathan's voice rose. I lost 17 colleagues to that plague. 17 friends who gave their lives trying to help people who ultimately spat in our faces. Karen sat down heavily. I know, I was there. I remember every funeral. Then you understand why we cannot just go running back. If we do, we teach them nothing. They will take our help, use us until the crisis is over, and then discard us again the moment it is convenient. So children die to teach their leaders a lesson? Yes, Nathan said flatly. Because if we save them now, more children will die later when this happens again. The council needs to learn that humanity is not a tool. We are not their servants. We are equals who deserve respect. It was the hardest thing Nathan had ever said. He was a doctor. His entire life was dedicated to saving lives. But he had learned that sometimes you had to let people suffer the consequences of their choices, or they would never change. Back in Council space, the Zarathian advance continued. They took another 4 systems in 3 days. Their fleet was unstoppable. They had been planning this invasion for years, waiting for the perfect moment. Humanity's expulsion had given them exactly what they needed. The Council's combined fleet finally assembled for a major counterattack. 130 ships representing 15 different species jumped into the Kelthani system to face the Zarathian invasion force. It should have been a glorious moment. The Council coming together to defend their people. Instead, it was a massacre. The fleet had no unified command structure. Each species operated independently, following their own tactics and strategies. The humans had always coordinated everything, making sure all the different ships worked together. Without that coordination, the fleet was just a mob. The Zarathians tore through them like paper. Their ships fought as a single unit, perfectly synchronized. The Council fleet fought as 130 separate vessels that barely communicated. Within 6 hours, 70 Council ships were destroyed. The rest scattered and ran. Admiral Linda Shaw watched the battle reports from Earth. She had commanded Council defense operations for 2 years. She knew every one of those commanders personally. Now she was watching them die because they had forgotten how to work together. "We could help them," said her assistant, Commander Kyle. "One message from you and those fleets would start coordinating properly." Linda shook her head. "No, we were expelled, remember?" The Council made it very clear that they did not want human interference in their affairs. "So we are not interfering. But people are dying. People die in wars. The Council started this when they expelled us. They made their choice. Now they live with it." The meeting of Earth's government was tense. President Andrew Carter sat at the head of the table, surrounded by his cabinet and military advisors. Everyone was watching the situation in Council space with growing concern. "The Council is collapsing," said the Secretary of Defense. "The Zarathians will control half their territory within a month. The plague will kill 50 million before the year ends. If we do nothing, we are watching billions of people face slavery or death. And if we rush back to save them, we are watching humanity face eternal servitude." Helen Price said firmly, "We go back now and we become the Council's emergency service. They will use us when they need us and discard us when they do not. We will never be equals. We will always be tools." Admiral Linda Shaw stood up. "Mr. President, I spent 2 years protecting those people. I watched humans die for them. And when we needed them, when we were falsely accused and facing expulsion, not one of them stood with us. Not one." The President looked around the table. "So we do nothing?" "We wait," Linda said. "We wait for them to come to us. Not with empty apologies, but with real offers. Real change. They need to offer us full partnership. Equal status. Complete authority over military operations. They need to expel the Zarathians from the Council and punish them for their lies. And they need to do all of this before we even consider helping. And if they do not offer those things," Linda's expression was hard as steel, "then we let them fall. We protect Earth and our allies. We build our own civilization. And we let the Council learn what happens when you throw away the only people who were holding everything together." The vote was unanimous. Earth would wait. No matter how many messages they received, no matter how desperate the pleas became, humanity would not return until the Council came to them with respect. In Council space, the death toll continued to climb. The Zarathians took another 3 systems. The plague spread to 2 more planets, and still Earth remained silent. 47 days after humanity's departure, the Galactic Council stood on the edge of complete destruction. The Zarathian Imperium controlled 30 star systems. The plague had killed 18 million people and was spreading faster each day. Pirate attacks had increased by 600%. Trade networks that had existed for thousands of years had collapsed. Entire civilizations were facing starvation as food shipments stopped arriving. High Magistrate Vexthal stood alone in his private chambers, looking at the holographic display showing Council space. More than half of it was now colored red for Zarathian control, or yellow for contested zones. Only a small portion remained green for Council territory. His civilization, which had stood for 10,000 years, was dying. He made a decision. Without telling anyone on the Council, he boarded a small diplomatic shuttle with only a pilot and 1 aide. No grand delegation. No ceremony, no protocol officers or security teams. Just 3 beings in a tiny ship making the long journey to Earth. When his shuttle entered Earth's solar system, it was immediately surrounded by human military vessels. A stern voice came over the communication system. Unidentified vessel, you have entered restricted space. State your purpose or be destroyed. This is High Magistrate Vexthal of the Galactic Council. I request an audience with President Carter of Earth. There was a long silence. Then the voice returned, sounding surprised. Please transmit your credentials and wait for verification. The shuttle was escorted to Earth orbit by 6 human warships. Vexthal looked down at the blue and green planet below. It was beautiful. He wondered why they had ever feared these people. The humans had only wanted to help, and the Council had treated them as enemies. The meeting was arranged quickly. Within hours, Vexthal found himself standing in a conference room in the United Earth Government building in Geneva. President Andrew Carter sat at a long table, flanked by Ambassador Helen Price and Admiral Linda Shaw. Other human officials lined the walls. Vexthal had attended thousands of diplomatic meetings in his long life. He knew all the games, all the strategies, all the ways to negotiate from a position of strength. But today he had no strength. Today, he could only speak the truth. I come to beg forgiveness, he said simply. His voice was quiet, without the booming authority it usually carried. We were wrong. About everything. President Carter studied the alien leader for a long moment. You accused us of crimes we did not commit. You expelled us without investigation. You threw away 3 years of sacrifice and partnership because you were afraid of our success. Yes, all of that is true. Vexthal bowed his head, something that high magistrates never did. We were jealous of your achievements. We were fearful of your growing strength, and we were fools. The Zarathians fed our doubts and suspicions while planning their invasion. They knew that without humanity we would be helpless, and we gave them exactly what they wanted. Helen Price leaned forward. What exactly are you asking for, Magistrate? Everything. Help, protection, knowledge, medical aid, military support. Everything we once had and threw away so carelessly. Vexthal looked up, meeting her eyes. But I am not asking for charity. I am not asking you to be our servants. I am asking for true partnership. Partnership, Admiral Linda said coldly. Like the partnership we had before? Where we died protecting your worlds while you accused us of war crimes. No, real partnership. Equal partnership. Vexthal straightened despite his exhaustion. The Council will grant humanity a permanent seat on the High Command. You will have full voting rights on all Council decisions. You will have equal authority with me, with any other member. Your voice will carry the same weight as any species that has been part of the Council for thousands of years. President Carter exchanged glances with his advisors. This was significant. The Council had never offered equal membership to anyone. There were senior members and junior members, but humans would be joining as full equals from day one. Additionally, Vexthal continued, we will share all our technology with you. Our historical archives, our scientific databases, our cultural knowledge. Everything we have will be open to humanity. We will write new agreements that respect Earth as a peer civilization, not as a subordinate or a tool. What about the Zarathians? Helen asked. Vexthal's expression hardened. The Zarathian Imperium will be expelled from the Council permanently. All their territory will be seized. Their leaders will be arrested and tried for war crimes, including the false accusations against humanity and the invasion they launched. Every species that voted against you will issue a formal public apology. These apologies will be recorded and broadcast across all Council space. The room fell silent. It was more than anyone had expected. It was justice. Complete, total justice for what had been done to humanity. Admiral Linda stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city below. We need guarantees, Magistrate. Treaties, insurance that this never happens again. We need it written into Council law that humanity cannot be expelled without evidence that has been verified by neutral parties. We need protections. You will have them. All of them. We will rewrite the Council charter if necessary, whatever it takes to make sure this never happens again. Vexthal stepped closer to the table. I know we do not deserve your help. I know what we did to you was unforgivable. But there are billions of innocent civilians dying right now. They did not vote against you. They did not accuse you of crimes. They are children and families who just want to live. President Carter stood up and walked around the table. He stopped directly in front of Vexthal. looking up at the massive insectoid being. Humanity will return to council space. We will stop the Zarathian invasion. We will cure the plague. We will restore order and protect the innocent. But we do it on our terms. We come as equals. We come with respect. And if anyone ever forgets that lesson, they will learn it the hard way. Are we clear? Completely clear, Mr. President. Vexthal bowed again. Thank you. You are saving billions of lives. We are saving our partners. That is what partners do. Within 6 hours, the orders went out. Admiral Linda Shaw mobilized the entire Earth Defense Fleet. 247 warships prepared for departure. Dr. Nathan Pierce assembled medical teams from across Earth. Engineers, technicians, and support staff scrambled to get ready. Captain Nicole Hayes stood on the bridge of the Liberty once again. This time, when they entered council space, it would be different. This time they came as equals. This time, they came with the respect they had always deserved. All ships report ready, Captain, Lieutenant Ryan Foster said. He sounded eager. They all were. 3 weeks away from council space had been like watching friends suffer, while being unable to help. Now they could finally act. Take us in, Nicole ordered. Maximum speed. Show them that humanity has returned. The human fleet jumped to faster than light travel and disappeared. When they emerged in council space, they came as an overwhelming force. The Zarathian invasion fleet was attacking the colony world of Haven Prime when 200 human warships appeared in orbit. The battle was swift and brutal. The Zarathians had been winning against council forces, but they were completely unprepared for humanity's return. Human ships moved with perfect coordination. Their weapons were more accurate. Their shields were stronger. Their tactics were superior in every way. Within 4 hours, the Zarathian invasion fleet was destroyed or in full retreat. Haven Prime was saved. The 40 million civilians who had been living under occupation were freed. All across council space, similar scenes played out. Human fleets appeared in system after system, driving back the Zarathians. The invasion that had seemed unstoppable was crushed in less than a week. The Zarathian Imperium, which had thought itself so clever for engineering humanity's expulsion, found itself facing the full might of human military power. Their homeworld was surrounded. Their leaders were arrested. Their civilization was dismantled and absorbed into council territory. The Zarathians had bet everything on humanity never returning. They had lost everything because of it. Dr. Lisa Grant returned to Mercy General Hospital on the 3rd day after humanity's return. The Thanari nurse who had begged her not to leave ran up and hugged her, crying with relief. You came back. I knew you would come back. Lisa smiled sadly. I never wanted to leave, but sometimes people need to learn lessons the hard way. The mother whose daughter needed medicine was waiting. Lisa examined the child and immediately began treatment. The little girl would live, but Lisa knew that many other children had not been so lucky. The time humanity had been gone had cost lives. It was a terrible price, but maybe it was necessary. Dr. Nathan Pierce arrived with medical teams and the equipment needed to mass-produce the plague cure. Within days, the death rate began to drop. Within 2 weeks, the plague was under control again. The 18 million who had died were gone forever, but humanity made sure no one else would join them. Commander Greg Palmer brought the Sentinel network back online. The satellites that had been watching over council space came back to life. Pirates who had been operating freely suddenly found themselves being hunted again. Within a month, piracy rates dropped back to pre-expulsion levels. The council chamber was filled for the special ceremony. Every delegate,